to Cosmic Pathways, Tarot Meets Astrology. It's a series of 8 videos exploring the significance of the 22 cards of the major arcana. And for those of you not familiar with the tarot, these are the major arcana, is a set of cards creating symbolic or a kind of archetypal stepping stones to help you to understand what life is all about. In fact, sometimes the major arcana is referred to as the 22 steps to enlightenment. So welcome to this deep dive into life's mysteries. I'm Sue Brayne and I'm an astrologer, and I'm with my lovely colleague and friend Gail Carroll, who is a tarot card reader. So Carol and I are just passionate about astrology and tarot. So this is why we've decided to create this series for you. So without further ado, let's get started with this series, which is, we're going to be looking at the Hanged Man, the Death card, and Temperance. So the Fool is way on his journey now, isn't he, Carol? Carol? Gail. Oh, well, never mind. Gail.
Just quickly, a funny story about that. My dad always wanted to call me Carol. So that's why I'm Gail.
Whoa.
But my mum got away with the Gail. So
And
maybe dad, and we were just talking about my dad before coming on air, didn't we?
Wow, we were talking about mediumship.
It
So
has
maybe, well, that's weird. Anyway, this great mystery
anyway,
about.
It's fine. It's all good.
I love it.
So and you know what? I was thinking about this. Obviously, before we come on, we had a little think about it. And I was thinking, where's our Fool? We put our Fool on this journey
Yes.
of all the major kind of cards and the enlightenment, because he's going on this enlightening journey. And I was feeling that these are really the last 3 cards that he is doing a lot of self-reflection.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with that.
The next set of cards are more of, I think, outside influences. This is more, we're back to sort of outside influences now at the moment. This is again all about him reflecting, and the Hanged Man personifies that. Personifies this. Yes.
Here he is.
There he is.
Yeah.
He personifies this whole period now of taking time out, self-reflection, and I don't think that, I think the title, the picture doesn't depict the title in that kind of sort of dark way, does it? Because he's there by choice.
Yes.
He's not. He's although one foot is enabling to hang there, his other foot's relaxed. His arms are sort of, he's chilling basically. And then he's got this beautiful yellow halo around his head, which is all to do with enlightenment and thinking and all that type of stuff. And it's time out. Time out is this card.
Absolutely. There's a sense of knowing that he has to sacrifice something in order to move on with his journey. The fact that he needs to go into it's the hero's journey into the unconscious, really. And I think him hanging himself upside down is that symbol of, do you know what? I've got to make some changes here to go to understand truly who I am. And it's very reflective of the myth of Odin. He's the Norse god who hung himself on the tree of wisdom, Yggdrasil, for 9 days and 9 nights to receive the wisdom of the runes. So it's when we go in, we start understanding who we are. And that's what he's doing. It's this beautiful myth coming to light of Odin, that without this sense of taking time out, without going within, we can't, life is very one-dimensional. And it's when we have the journey in that it becomes this rich, fertile, complex, incredible journey that makes up the human condition.
Yeah. And you have to, sometimes you just have to let go of something. I think what we as humans tend to do is keep ploughing on and keep ploughing on. And we sometimes find it difficult to take a beat, to take a step, and to pause. But without letting go, and reflecting, you're just going to keep repeating the same patterns, the same issues. And so if the hangman turns up in a reading, it really is a sign to say, stop, pause what
Yeah.
you're doing, take a moment, have a think. There might be something not working for you in life, and it's time to let go of something. And of course, I mean, we're going on to death in a minute, which is all about change. But prior to change, for you to change, you've got to understand what you need to change.
Yes. I think you've got to understand the sort of the complexities of your patterns, your behaviors, all that kind of stuff, your core beliefs. And and I feel like this card is really about sort of know thyself, and that your inner life is as important, if not more important, than your external life, because, you know, how you are in your inner life creates your external life. So if things aren't working, this is a wonderful card to turn up in your reading to go, time to stop. As you say, go on a retreat, find out who you are. It's a very important, it's a really important part of our human journey, I think.
Yeah. And number 11, no, he's number 12, isn't he?
Yeah.
Hangman's number 12. So numerologically speaking, number 12. Do you know anything about the number 12? Sue?
Well, it's the sun. Number 1 is the sun, and 12 is 2 is it's the card of duality, of coming together.
Yeah.
So, and it adds up to 3, and that's the number of Jupiter, which is expansion. So it's very much linked to do with the way we expand who we are is through our inner journey, not through the external world. And I should say, the external world throws things at us to be a mirror. So we are constantly drawing things to us to help us understand who we are. But it's when we say, okay, I don't want this to happen anymore, that's the key to understand that the inner journey now is calling you. Who am I?
Yeah. And I know a lot of people find it very difficult to be on their own and to work through stuff by themselves. It can be super challenging, I think, to face some of the things because change is scary, that inevitability. So it's so much easier to just keep going and repeating the same. I mean, we know the subconscious likes the road least most traveled, so it kind of repeats the habits, doesn't it?
Yes.
So to suddenly get the subconscious now to stop and to think differently, to try and understand what's going on, I know can be quite challenging.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
You know, to admit that, you know, to admit that you're utterly responsible for how you create life. That's the hero's journey. That's it. And
Yes.
the hangman is the first stepping stone to understanding that you're in charge of your life.
And another thing about the hangman is why is he upside down? And it's because he wants to see things differently.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And also when you and the halo around his head is, it, as you say, it's knowledge, it's self-knowledge, it's enlightenment. It's going down into the underworld to find out.
Yeah, the world from the upside down.
Yeah, I mean, the other way up doesn't work at all.
No, not really. No, not really. He won't be the hangman, yeah. So it is
Okie doke.
visually
Anything
Yeah.
else you want to say? I'm just thinking if there's anything else. I think it is about this willingness to sacrifice something in order to gain something more.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I think absolutely fine, because we're going to go on to the next card, aren't
Okay,
we?
no,
Which is
because
this one.
understanding this and understanding that you need to make changes brings us to my
Yeah.
favorite card of the pack, which is the death card.
Oh,
I
well,
love
tell
the
me
death
more.
card.
Why is it
Yeah,
your favourite?
yeah, I love the death card
Why?
because this is where the fool faces his mortality. And I
Right.
believe that this is until we face our mortality, we're not really fully engaged with what it means to be alive. When we face our mortality and understand that there is that at some point we're not going to be here, it really encourages us to live the life as fully as we can, as most engaged as we can. But for me, the death card is this, it strips away all the labels. It doesn't matter whether we've got he's a bishop or whatever,
Yeah.
or the
There's
Pope
a
or
king of
whatever, and it
it.
doesn't matter. And then there's somebody kneeling beside him as a pauper. Death doesn't give a shit what label you're wearing. It just goes, mate, your time's up.
But
That's
let's
it.
let's add a caveat in there, because when it turns up in a reading, because it is a much maligned card, and when it turns up in a reading, it doesn't mean that your time's up. Well, 99.9%
Yeah,
of the time, it
yeah,
doesn't mean your
yeah,
time's up. It could be accompanied by a lot of other cards to kind of give that message, but no, what it means is it's time for change, and
absolutely.
any change any change, I think, brings with it a level of grief, letting go of something and change. Grief isn't about complete loss of life. It's also shows its face when you lose a way of life, not just lose a life, but lose a way of life
Exactly.
too.
Yes. Yes, I think, and that's the key, isn't it? It's this sort of and change purifies us. There is this
Mm,
sense of purification that goes on, and it leads us, when we go through major change, it is this journey with Pluto into the underworld, but it's about death and rebirth, and we
yeah.
re-emerge after the grieving period as somebody quite different. And I think it's when we've really entered into deep understanding about grief as being
Mm,
part of the human condition that we start to understand what compassion means, because then we're very sensitive to other people's
yeah.
experience of grief and loss.
Yeah.
Yes. And also, I think it is this sense of, what I like about this card is, can you see the sun rising between the two
Yes.
pillars of wisdom? So
Mm,
even if it comes unexpectedly, and people experience the most horrendous loss and griefs, but there is this sense of pushing us into the depth of who we are. And so many people, when they experience death, in their life, or somebody that love, or the death of a marriage, being sacked, or there's so many different ways to experience death and loss. There is
yeah.
this sense of wisdom, a wisdom coming with it. There is this sense of having to, it's almost like life before, there's a life before the change, the death happened, and then there's life after it.
And then, also, it's showing up to say, resistance is going to be more painful. You
Yes.
resist and you don't allow the new to come in.
Yes.
It can create greater pain by just ignoring it and not changing, which is a lot of people tend, as I said, we were talking before about resistance to change. Yeah.
It's pointless, actually, because change especially when you work with the astrological cycles, it's inevitable. Life does not stay the same. And, you know, the great cycle of life and death is unfolding all the time. Every day you look in the mirror and, you know, the aging process is upon you, whether you want it or not. And whether you
Yes.
try and resist it or not, it's inevitable. The cycle of life and death, for each one of us, is inevitable. And I think when we welcome change, it reduces the fear of change. People are terrified of change because, well, what does that mean? I've got to go into the unknown. Yes, that is true. You do. And that's
brings
part
in
of
a
the
level,
life condition, the human
yeah,
condition again. Mm.
and it brings in that level of trusting in the process.
Yes.
You know, it is a lot of it is about trusting it. You know.
Yeah, and I think this death card often comes when we're clinging on or trying to control things. And when we're it's like the universe goes, you can hang on as much as you like, mate, but I'm going to win.
Yeah.
So yes.
It's futile.
Yeah. And just to say, in my experience of reading cards with when the death comes up, I always explain, like you do, this does not mean to say a physical death, but
No.
but sometimes if the death card is with other difficult cards like the Tower, the Three of
Yeah.
Swords, anything like that, if there's that may indicate a more some kind of death that's going to be a big teaching.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So
And in combinations, it can be a warning about illness and go and get your health checked and stuff like that.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's but generally it shows up just to say changes are coming. I mean, and often I get a lot of vibes. If somebody's going to start experiencing a lot of change, you also generally get um, vibes show up.
Yeah, the card.
13, it's the 13, Sue. Before we go, 13, and that's always been a belief that that's an unlucky number. Do you know anything about where that's come about? The unlucky 13.
Yes, it's an interesting one. It's 1 and 3. Well, again, we've got the sun and the number of creation.
Yeah,
And don't forget, 13 was very much linked to do with the Christian understanding or the occultism. You know, anything occult, hidden, was very was regarded with great suspicion by the church. So a lot of anything to do with divination, because the Christians, it was like only God could decide what was going to happen to your life. So all
yeah.
these divinationary practices were massively frowned on because it was basically empowering the person to take charge of their own life. Didn't need a priest.
Yeah,
So that was
yeah,
not, that's why the Christian church was so anti anything occult. It's
yeah,
self-empowerment. Yeah,
yes,
yeah. And we're still breaking through that, but there's still a
yeah,
lot of issues around that. But anyway, the death card, as I said, for me is one of my favorite cards because it's about also reminding us of our mortality, and therefore, yeah, let's live. Let's
mm,
engage with life while we've got it in we're breathing our breath of life.
absolutely.
Okie doke. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, he needs to
Okay.
march on. He needs
Right,
to get.
which leads us to oh,
Yes. Well,
lovely.
after a period of such change, we need to chill. We need a little bit of calmness. And what I love about this card is, have you seen the sun in the background? That's the same sun that was in the
Yes,
death card. It's now risen,
yes.
shining lots of
It's
lovely light on
this
lovely angel.
it's beautiful, isn't it? And this card traditionally is associated with Sagittarius. Now, Sagittarius is all
Yeah,
about knowledge. and trust and faith. But for me, it's more of an Aquarian card, I think, because
Yeah.
Aquarians carry the wisdom of the universe on the shoulders through the water. And here's we have the angel, and she's got one foot in the water and one foot on land, and she's pouring the wisdom into it. You know, there's a sort of, you know, as above, so below. I look at this card like that, that we're not alone. I don't know how you see it, but I just see it very much as it's it's about trusting the universe, trusting ourselves, trusting the process of life. How do you see it?
Well, it's sometimes referred to, isn't it, as the card of alchemy, and it's about the fact that she's, or the angels creating their own mix of what is needed to take them on the next part of their journey, which is what alchemy is all about. That you have it in your hands to
Yes.
create exactly what you need to create now. You've had the change. Temperance is just a period of calmness and reflection and harmony, I suppose, and
Yes.
patience. And it encompasses all the elements. We've got all four elements. I mean, most of the cards, the elements are very prevalent, but like you say here, and it is about, yeah, I feel it's within your hands to create the life and to embrace change and to move forwards now.
Yeah, and also the white background. The white is
Mm.
the color of purity. So there has been a sense of purification going on the fool's journey as he's learning to integrate his understanding of himself, and this sort of sense of, gosh, who am I now? And having a sort of this sense of connecting with something greater than him. That's how
Yeah,
I look at that. That there is
yeah,
maybe a time of being able to, for me, it gives me peace to see this card, that I
mm,
feel I'm more in balance, that I feel like I've got a flow going on, that I know more about myself, that I kind of feel like life isn't so dramatic as it is with the hangman and the death card.
yes, it's been a bit of a turbulent um,
Yes,
process according to the
yes.
fallen, and it's everything in moderation, isn't it? Everything in moderation now.
It's
Period of rest.
Yeah, it's the Buddhist teaching, which is follow the middle road. I
Yeah,
love that. This sense of, you know, if you follow the middle path, you're there is this sense of feeling much calmer, that you're not engaged in you're not being pulled out by the dramas. You're not being pulled out by being overwhelmed by your emotional life or your reactions. You're beginning to understand, because you've had the inner journey, you're beginning to understand what reaction and response means, and taking more control of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if it turns up to read, often I will ask if they've had a period of change or something's been going on in their life, because it does show up to just say, be patient, trust the process,
Yeah.
balance. You've got this. You've got this in your
Yes.
hand. You can create this. Whatever your next step is and moving forward, you've got this.
Yeah. I love that you've got this, because because you go, oh, I have. It's got that kind of, oh.
You've got this.
It's the
Yeah.
journey. It's the gift of doing the hard work. It really is. And it kind of sets us up actually for the next card and next week. Do you want to say something? So we're just going to leave Temperance here and thank the angel
Yes.
for
Yeah.
being
We're
our
gonna
guardian angel.
yeah, turning up, and we're well past. We just tick Peter past the middle of the pack now.
Yeah.
So next week, 15, 16, and 17. Crikey, we're whizzing through these two. Where does the time go? 15 is the devil, and then we've got the tower, and then the star. So we'll be deep diving into those 3 cards. We love all those 3. They're all quite strong messages. They're all, and they well, all the major arcana show up with big messages, as we
Yes.
well know.
Yeah.
Up to
Okay,
it.
so we'll see everybody next time.